In this episode, we're going to move from the idea of having a security awareness program to the harder and more valuable idea of maturing one, because a program that stays static usually becomes background noise. Beginners sometimes assume that once training exists and everyone completes it, the job is done, but awareness is more like building fitness than passing a test. People forget, threats evolve, workflows change, and the organization hires new employees who have different habits and different context. Maturity is the ability to keep awareness effective over time, which means the program must adapt based on evidence, keep behaviors fresh through reinforcement, and focus attention through targeted campaigns rather than trying to teach everything to everyone all the time. The title gives us 3 levers that make that maturity possible: metrics, reinforcement, and targeted campaigns. When these levers work together, you can see whether behavior is improving, you can make the safe behaviors more automatic, and you can address specific risk patterns without overwhelming people. By the end, you should be able to explain what it means to mature an awareness program and how these 3 levers create a feedback loop that reduces real incidents. A useful starting point is clarifying what maturity means in the context of awareness, because it is not just adding more content or making training more difficult. Maturity means the program reliably produces the behaviors it is meant to produce, and it does so in a way that is sustainable and respected. A mature program is measured, meaning it can demonstrate whether it is working. It is reinforced, meaning it does not rely on one annual event to shape habits. It is targeted, meaning it focuses attention where risk is highest rather than spreading energy evenly across every topic. It is also integrated, meaning it aligns with real workflows and organizational priorities, so people do not experience it as random interruptions. A beginner misunderstanding is thinking maturity is about making everyone more afraid or more cautious, but the real goal is making safer decisions feel normal and supported. Another sign of maturity is that the program evolves based on what the organization learns, such as patterns in incidents, near misses, and employee feedback. When you define maturity this way, you stop thinking of awareness as a static requirement and start thinking of it as an adaptive control. That mindset is what turns training into risk reduction. Metrics are the first lever because you cannot mature what you cannot observe, and awareness programs often fail because they measure the wrong thing. The easiest metric to collect is completion, like the percentage of people who finished a module, but completion only proves exposure to content, not behavior change. A mature program uses metrics that reflect actions and outcomes, such as how often people report suspicious messages, how quickly they report, how often risky behaviors are repeated, and how incident patterns change over time. It also uses metrics that reflect friction, such as how often people struggle with verification processes or how often policy exceptions are requested for convenience. The purpose of metrics is not to produce vanity charts. It is to guide decisions about where to focus reinforcement and campaigns. Metrics should also be interpreted carefully, because an improvement in a metric can sometimes mean the program is working, but it can also mean people are gaming the system or losing trust. For example, fewer reported suspicious messages could mean fewer suspicious messages, but it could also mean people stopped reporting because they felt ignored. A mature program treats metrics as signals to investigate, not as final truth. To use metrics well, you need a baseline and a trend, because a single number rarely means much without context. A baseline is the starting point, like current reporting rates, current time to report, or current frequency of certain error patterns. Trends show whether the program is moving in the right direction and how quickly. For awareness, trends often matter more than perfect accuracy, because you want to know whether behaviors are improving and whether improvements are sustained. It is also important to use metrics that can be acted on, meaning if a metric changes, you know what to do next. If reporting is low, you might simplify reporting and reinforce why reporting matters. If time to report is slow, you might focus campaigns on early reporting and reduce fear of blame. If a particular team has repeated failures, you might target that team with role-specific coaching and workflow support. Beginners often assume metrics are only for leadership reporting, but metrics are also for program design because they reveal where the program is weak and where it is strong. When metrics guide action, awareness becomes a managed system rather than an educational tradition. Reinforcement is the second lever, and it is essential because behaviors fade when they are not practiced, especially when the behavior is needed only occasionally. Reinforcement means regularly reminding and practicing the right behaviors in small, realistic ways that fit the working day. This can include short refreshers, quick reminders tied to seasonal patterns, micro-lessons delivered close to risky activities, and regular prompts that keep key habits accessible in memory. The key is that reinforcement should feel relevant and respectful, not like constant nagging. If reinforcement is too frequent or too generic, people tune out, and then the program loses its ability to influence behavior. A mature program uses reinforcement strategically, focusing on the handful of behaviors that matter most, such as verifying unusual requests and reporting quickly. Reinforcement also benefits from variety, because repeating the same message in the same format becomes invisible. Variety can include different examples, different angles, and different delivery channels, as long as the core behavior remains consistent. Beginners should understand that reinforcement is not filler. It is how habits are formed and maintained over time. Another important part of reinforcement is designing it so it reduces friction and builds confidence, because people are more likely to repeat behaviors that feel easy and successful. If you want people to report suspicious messages, reinforcement should include clarity about where to report and what will happen after they report. If you want people to verify requests, reinforcement should include practical language for how to ask for verification in a way that feels normal and non-accusatory. If you want people to handle data carefully, reinforcement should include reminders of approved storage and sharing practices. Reinforcement also works best when it connects to real events, such as recent near misses or industry patterns, because those connections make the risk feel tangible. However, the tone matters, because reinforcement that relies on fear can backfire by increasing shame and hiding behavior. A mature program uses reinforcement to normalize safety behaviors and to make them socially supported. When reinforcement is well designed, it turns safe defaults into automatic responses rather than rare acts of heroism. Targeted campaigns are the third lever, and they are what allow an awareness program to focus energy where it will produce the largest risk reduction. A targeted campaign is a time-bound push around a specific risk theme, aimed at a specific audience or workflow, with clear behaviors to reinforce. The reason targeted campaigns work is that attention is limited, and broad messaging tends to dilute. If you try to remind everyone about every risk every month, people will remember none of it. If you focus on one theme, like reducing impersonation success during invoice season, you can create repeated cues that help people recognize and respond correctly. Campaigns can be targeted by role, such as focusing on finance, support, or leadership, or targeted by event, such as onboarding, major system changes, or vendor renewals. The campaign should connect to specific decision points, like verifying payment changes or reporting suspicious login prompts, so people know what to do. Beginners sometimes think campaigns are just marketing, but in security awareness, campaigns are structured habit builders that concentrate reinforcement for measurable change. They are also a way to show the organization that the program is active and responsive rather than static. A mature targeted campaign also includes a clear plan for how success will be measured, which brings us back to metrics. If the campaign is about phishing resistance, you might track reporting rates, time to report, and repeat failure patterns. If the campaign is about data handling, you might track the frequency of risky sharing behaviors or the number of incidents involving misdirected data. If the campaign is about verification of requests, you might track the number of reported impersonation attempts and whether they were stopped before harm occurred. The goal is not to create perfect measurement, but to create enough feedback to know whether the campaign is improving behavior. Targeted campaigns also benefit from reinforcement that is tailored to the audience, using examples that match their daily work. A finance team will engage more with examples about payment changes than with examples about software installation. A developer team will engage more with examples about secrets handling than with generic password reminders. When campaigns feel tailored, they feel respectful, and respect increases attention. For beginners, the lesson is that targeting is not about exclusion. It is about efficiency and relevance. Metrics, reinforcement, and targeted campaigns work best when they form a loop, because each one strengthens the others. Metrics show where risk behaviors are occurring and whether they are changing over time. Reinforcement builds habits and keeps them fresh, which should move the metrics in the right direction. Targeted campaigns focus reinforcement and attention on specific risk areas, which should produce measurable changes that are visible in metrics. Then those metrics guide what the next campaign should be and which reinforcement messages should be emphasized. This loop is the essence of maturity because it turns awareness into a learning system. Instead of repeating the same training year after year, the program evolves based on evidence and adapts to new patterns. The loop also supports credibility because leaders and employees can see that the program is not random, it is responding to real signals. Credibility matters because people engage more with programs they believe are grounded in reality. When the loop is strong, the awareness program becomes part of how the organization manages risk, not just part of how it checks boxes. Another important aspect of maturity is handling different audiences without creating fragmentation, because too much customization can become hard to maintain. The solution is often to keep a consistent core message, like pause, verify, and report, while customizing the examples and decision points for each role. This keeps the program coherent while still being relevant. Reinforcement can share the same behavioral core across the organization, while targeted campaigns can go deeper for specific teams where risk is concentrated. Metrics can be aggregated to tell the organization-level story, while also being broken down enough to identify where extra support is needed. A mature program also recognizes that not all roles need the same level of attention because risk is not evenly distributed. High-privilege and high-exposure roles often need more frequent reinforcement and more targeted campaigns. That is not unfair. It is proportional to impact. Beginners should see that maturity is about proportionality and sustainability, not about treating everyone identically. When proportionality is built in, the program scales without exhausting the audience. It is also worth addressing a common misconception that awareness maturity means catching people failing and punishing them, because that approach usually reduces reporting and increases hidden risk. A mature program focuses on improving the system and supporting people, not on embarrassing individuals. If a team repeatedly fails at a particular behavior, the program should ask why, such as whether the workflow is confusing, whether verification is socially discouraged, or whether tools make the safe behavior hard. Metrics can reveal where support is needed, but the response should be coaching and process improvement, not blame. This is where psychological safety remains critical, because people must feel safe reporting both suspicious events and honest mistakes. Reinforcement should emphasize that reporting is valued and that early reporting reduces harm. Targeted campaigns should celebrate good behavior, like timely reporting and successful verification, because positive reinforcement strengthens habits. Beginners should understand that behavior change is easier when people feel supported rather than judged. The program's purpose is risk reduction, and risk reduction is achieved through openness and learning, not fear and secrecy. Mature programs also integrate awareness with real operational processes, so behavior change is supported by the environment. If you want people to report quickly, reporting tools must be easy and response must be visible. If you want people to verify requests, verification channels must be available and managers must support their use. If you want people to handle data carefully, approved storage must be convenient and access controls must be understandable. When awareness is isolated from operations, it becomes advice that people cannot follow reliably. When awareness is integrated, it becomes part of normal work, and the program's reinforcement feels like guidance rather than interference. Integration also helps metrics, because operational systems can provide better signals about behavior patterns. For example, incident response systems can reveal reporting patterns, and access systems can reveal risky permission requests. A mature program uses these signals to refine campaigns and reinforcement, creating a tighter loop. Beginners should see that awareness maturity is not only about messaging. It is about aligning messaging with tools, processes, and leadership behavior, so the safe choice becomes the default choice. As we close, maturing an awareness program means shifting from one-time training to a continuous behavior management system that is guided by evidence and designed for real work. Metrics provide visibility into whether behaviors are changing and where risk patterns persist, and the best metrics focus on actions and outcomes rather than mere completion. Reinforcement keeps key behaviors accessible and habitual through regular, relevant reminders, and practice that reduce friction and build confidence. Targeted campaigns focus attention on specific high-risk themes and audiences, producing concentrated behavior change that can be measured and refined. When these elements form a loop, the program learns and evolves instead of repeating itself, which is the core of maturity. Over time, a mature awareness program reduces real incidents not by demanding perfect vigilance, but by building reliable habits, supporting early reporting, and concentrating effort where human risk is most likely to cause harm. That is how awareness becomes a durable control that strengthens the organization as it grows and changes.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.